Let's podcast. It's the OG in DC, ACC Tournament, day one. NC State just muddled through against Louisville, Joe.
The OG in DC, brought to you by Hometown Realty, our friends at myhtr.com. Buy, sell, calculate.
It's what it's all about. We thank them for funding this boondoggle. Although I don't know what's more of a boondoggle, this entire trip or the way DC handles their wagering on online wagering.
You have to wonder if I was just born under the wrong star.
You might be.
I waited all this time to get legalized gambling.
You know what? I'm actually going to give you credit because I was worried that traveling with you would cause, traffic confusion and delay. But we were actually very blessed on the drive to DC today.
We were.
I was the one who screwed up.
No,
look, I misread the Google map today. I got on 495. We had to do a little bit of a loop, but we got up here with like zero traffic. Zero traffic.
It was impressive.
We'll see how that works out the other, going back. But anyway, big thanks to Hometown Realty for sponsoring our ACC tournament coverage. Before we start, a little bit of housekeeping because people seem to be, I tried to explain it the best I could. Apologies if it was a little confusing. So a little bit of housekeeping. Our ACC tournament stuff is is a little bit TBD as the week goes on. All right. So like tomorrow, we didn't really know what we were going to do tomorrow because it was dependent on what NC State did today against Louisville. They beat Louisville, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which means we will wait post Deeks and Wolfpack tomorrow. Your Deeks, Joe. Your Deeks.
They're here.
So what's the schedule tomorrow?
The plate is here.
NC State is playing the second game in the afternoon. Do I have that right? I don't have the schedule in front of me.
All right. Could make it work.
We can make it work. Yeah, we'll make it work at this point. So we'll
NC State's playing again. That's the news of the day.
That's the news of the day.
Yes, after a slow start.
Yeah.
That looked a lot like everything they've done since winning at Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
It's the oddest thing. This team thought they went to Clemson, won, and then the season was over. Like they thought they were in Albuquerque cutting down nets.
Both the Deeks and the Wolfpack have been kind of like that this to end of the season. They thought they beat Duke at home. They had the spectacular court storm, and then their season kind of ended until the end when they also beat Clemson to put themselves back in position to at least not completely spit the bit when it came to making the NCAA tournament. But specific to NC State, no DJ Horn to start. I guess he's got some sort of hip flexor thing. I think it was a lower body concern if we wanted to use the hockey parlance, since we are in a hockey building with all of the Alexander Ovechkin stuff around us. So no DJ Horn to start, but that doesn't excuse the Wolfpack for playing defense the way that they did against a Louisville squad that is really playing out the string, because I can't imagine that Kenny Payne is coming back to coach next year. I just can't imagine he's coming back to coach next year at Louisville. So the way that they played, it almost kind of gave me a sense of, are we witnessing like a loser leaves town match? Because if NC State was to lose today, man, like we talked about yesterday, man, I don't know how you bring it back if they lose to that Louisville squad.
Yeah, I don't think Louisville's as bad as they were last year, but obviously you're talking about a group that is lacking motivation and lacking direction, right? So just to start let's start at the end.
Okay.
I was just walked out the tunnel. I'm actually courtside. Oh my God, it's allowed to happen. And I saw Boo Corrigan in the hallway in the tunnel waiting for a state to come off. Congratulated some of the staff I saw, some of the players. A very, very brief interaction with Kevin. Read into that what you will.
Did he like your shirt?
Kevin did not like my shirt. I did say hello to Boo. I think a lot of people are maybe confused about what's going on with NC State.
All right.
Boo is Kevin's boss. I imagine they've had conversations about what's going to happen or what needs to happen this week in DC. I'm not going to tell you I have the answer to what that conversation was, but let's not insult either one of those two people in what their jobs are. They understand that part of the job, right? So Kevin, in the situations that he's in, this will be the first time he's fired, but he understands you are hired to be fired for the most part.
Yeah.
So, when people are like, oh, you've changed your tune or this or that. And I'm just like, listen, all I've been trying to do this whole time is try to say to you that the conversation on the administrative side and the conversation on the fan side it's now getting to be intersecting, though, because of the way that State has played since Clemson. I also think it's beginning to intersect in the sense why NC State shows up for this game today, not ready to fight for their lives. I don't understand that. I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
The way that they played in the last 30 minutes of the game, That's the way you need to play. Again, they played Syracuse, and they will play Syracuse tomorrow. This is where it really started. They come home from the Clemson game, play Syracuse, give up 55 points in a half, get dotted by some guy who's never made a shot in his life. And now all of a sudden you're like, what the hell just happened to you? I also think while this state team is not as good as the one last year, not a bad team. This isn't the 22 team. And I think people are still like mad about the 22 season, ultimately, is what I think this still comes back to.
Yeah.
So
I want to go back to what you were talking about with the changing of your tune or how these conversations have gone. And I think there is a mistake in how people interpret how we talk about stuff. Like I received an email and it went to the joint Gmail account to the OG goes digital at gmail.com. And it came from a listener who wrote a very long, nuanced piece about his thoughts on how we talk about NC State and Kevin Keatts. And I'm paraphrasing here, but it was almost like y'all are soft on Kevin Keatts, or you like Kevin Keatts, therefore it paints the way that you talk about it. And it's like, no, I don't think that's the case. I think what has happened, honestly, is twofold. One, social media has created an environment where, and you've heard me talk about this, it has created an environment where every win and a loss is some sort of referendum on a college basketball program. They're either going to be a Final Four team when they win, or, oh my goodness, this team isn't even going to make the NCAA tournament if they lose. All right. And when coaches are on the hot seat, or there's a coach that there are some questions about, those who want the guy out will look at every loss and say, yep, that's why he should be out. And the people who say, well, I don't know, they'll look at a win and see, like, that's why, right? And what ends up happening is you lose sight of the actual games that are happening, your enjoyment of watching the games that are happening, and you spend way more time arguing with strangers online about what the direction of the program should be. And you're just looking for things to bolster your argument. One thing that switching over to the podcast format has allowed you and me to do is to let conversations breathe a little bit. I'm not coming out of a radio break with a stinger and a bumper and saying something, you got to catch the audience in that first 30 seconds. Otherwise, they're going to change the channel. And it's, I think Kevin Keatts should be X. And that's the hook, right? That's not what we're doing anymore. Heck, it's not what we were really doing in the first place. We were trying to have those conversations that would breathe on the air, nuanced conversations, so that people who listen to us, NC State fans who want to have a better idea or a better understanding of what's going on, get that out of the conversation rather than a hot take. If you want hot takes, man, there are plenty of places to go get hot takes. Plenty of them. Hot takes are in abundance in the same way that DraftKings has an abundance of ways that I could get the pick wrong.
Just not in
Not DC. Part of the conversation, though. Not part of this conversation. It's probably a good thing, given that I had NC State minus 9.5 and under 148, because I did think it was going to be a slog today.
Man.
I did think it was going to be a slog today, but it ended up being a lot of points because no defense was played. But anyway, getting back to my overall
you're
point,
having more of a conversation.
We're having a conversation.
By the way,
and if the takeaway from what we're talking about is, oh, you're pro this or you're that. No, that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is help you understand why a decision might be made the way that it's made. That doesn't mean we agree with it. It just means, because I've straight up said now over the last couple of weeks, I think it's time for a change. I think regardless of what happens at the ACC tournament, I think it's time for a change. However, the conversations you and I have had make me go, yeah, man, I get why they might not change. That's all that I'm saying.
There are also moving parts. They can't play the way that they've played since the Clemson game.
No.
And act like this is good enough. Like I've talked to you all season long about, I just don't think there's that big of a difference between these teams in the ACC. And there really isn't. Look at the first half of State against Carolina. You saw what they could be, right? I mean, they're not all that far off, but you can't play the way that they have since the Clemson game and sit there and be like, okay, well, you can just accept the status quo, to use Debbie Yau's terms from, from the beginning of her tenure. By the way, State plays Syracuse tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Wake plays Notre Dame at 2:30. I made the classic error of forgetting that Georgia Tech only gives a shit about Duke and Carolina and the good teams.
That's right.
And hence lost my early placed bets today on Georgia Tech in the first half. I let the G4 down today.
and I let myself down by not committing the bracket to memory. But again, this is the difference in how we're approaching this ACC tournament versus how I've had to approach ACC tournaments the last couple of years, where it really is, filling in the blank with,
so I suspect
with
if
stuff.
Wake just takes care of business tomorrow, we will do one pod tomorrow after the state Syracuse game.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, if Wake loses, hey, guess what? We're going to be here. You want to do 30 minutes? We can come in and do 30 minutes.
Maybe.
If they win, we don't have to.
Heck, we might have to do
whatever we want.
We might have to do Deke therapy with Steve Forbes. We might just say, hey, man, we're here.
Hey, I bought the license plate. All right? You cannot pin this one on me. I did see a couple of safe heads on my timeline. I'm going to have to join you on the Wake bandwagon. I'm like, I get it, man.
We'll see.
I get it.
To the chat section on YouTube, since we're live on YouTube right now, from J Ray, there was a lot of effort starting midway through the first half all the way through the end of the game. It was another abysmal perimeter defensive performance, though. Louisville was 10 of 18 from 3. Yes, that is true. As Danny puts up, gave up 85 to Louisville. Yay, Keats. From 8 at Johns 2, Giglio, your math on the Keats staff extra buyouts was depressing.
Right.
But that's part of the conversation we're having. That's the context, man. That's the context. So, and we got Robert. Am I the only one after the first half I was pulling for the loss so we could get a new coach? You're probably not.
Not alone.
You're probably not that person. And this is probably my favorite comment. Legal gambling came in just in time for state fans to hedge their happiness.
Yeah. It's usually the other way.
From Trey, first 4 minutes, fans saying guys have given up and didn't care anymore. Keats teams have never done that and never will. No, that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true.
I actually made sure to tweet, I know they will fight in the second half. It's just like, what?
I think that's the most bothersome part. Okay. It's almost like how we talked about Duke and Carolina from this past week, where Duke knew what the assignment was, and you still allowed North Carolina to dictate the pace of play. They took it to you again. They were the aggressor when you knew that's why you lost that game. And NC State, to your point, after they beat Clemson and they take on Syracuse and they lose, Kevin Keats after the game said, we cannot come out this way and expect to win. And he was visibly upset about that. So the fact that has continued to happen has been a little bit of an eyebrow raiser. Kind of tells you where this team is at, but they survived in advance. I don't know. Maybe there is symmetry to this world. Maybe there is something to the fact that they get to see Syracuse tomorrow, and we'll see if that plays in their brain.
Maybe we need to go over to where the Cap Center used to be over in Landover. I think Patrick said it's a gas station now. That's actually the site of NC State's last ACC championship.
Okay. In Landover. That's right. That's how long it was in Landover.
The building no longer exists.
Jeez, that is wow. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to some other things, shall we? Housekeeping is brought to you by Inovana. Big thanks to them for sponsoring Housekeeping. Big thanks to them for coming over to my house and keeping things clean every 2 weeks while we've hit the busiest time in the Ovies household. It's not just the week here at the ACC tournament. There's wrapping up the Junior Canes hockey season. I got my kid in indoor percussion. Our weekends are just all over the place. The last thing I want to do when I finally get back on my couch is clean the house.
That was very inside baseball. What is indoor percussion?
Indoor percussion is what happens when the marching band season is over.
Yeah.
So you have two things. You have winter guard, which is like color guard doing indoor performances.
Okay.
And then you have indoor percussion, which you have front ensemble and the drum lines and all that stuff doing special shows.
Oh.
So Caleb right now is rocking the glockenspiel. Yes.
Clip it and save it.
Rocking the glockenspiel.
Put it on a shirt.
Put it on a shirt. Exactly. Put it on a shirt. So yeah, man, we don't have time for any of that stuff. So Inovana, check them out. ENOVANA.com to schedule your cleaning today. Inovana Green Cleaning. Big thanks to Breeze Through for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio as well.
I think Adam is our only sponsor who's not here. I suspect he will be here when his team of choice is playing a little bit later in the week, though.
Likely. Check out breezethrough.com for the various locations. I filled up with Breeze Through gas in Cary at the home base.
I downloaded the app too, man.
Yeah?
Low key. I'm telling you,
Get
the gas
savings.
thing, there's something to
There's something to the whole gas thing. There's savings. You never know.
I don't know.
So, yeah, I hit the
it's amazing.
I hit the home base to fill up the Civic, and then we made it out here. And again, surprisingly easy. We made it out here with no traffic. Knock on wood.
Because I wasn't driving.
That's a good point. Well, I want to talk about that in a little bit. Also, big thanks to Whitaker and Hammer for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio. Check them out. Yeah, so far, knock on wood, do not need Whitaker and Hammer. Check them out online, wh.lawyer. And of course, Hometown Realty, myhtr.com. They are sponsoring and bringing you ACC tournament coverage here on Ovies and Giglio throughout the week. I did want to bring up for like a hot minute the drive up here.
Okay. It was rather uneventful, so I'm curious what this might be about.
Two things.
Okay.
One,
I made sandwiches.
You did make sandwiches. Yeah. I did laugh because you treated this as though it was a family road trip, which I appreciate. That Costco croissant with the carved turkey, I didn't realize you can get a whole turkey, like breast. A 5 turkey breast that you carve up yourself.
Yes.
So those buttery croissants with that turkey and a little bit of mayonnaise, that was money. I appreciate that.
You got it.
What I didn't appreciate was the live commentary as you were on your gambling app freaking out about darts.
Yes, darts.
Joe.
I didn't know they do darts in Canada.
Joe.
Or Greece was the one who won.
Was it Greece?
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Trust me, if I could have figured out the cricket live line, I would have been on it.
Was there a tennis match too that you were?
Yeah, my guy was up 4-2 in the tiebreak and he lost. South African lost to a Swiss. I try to reason in my head that the Swiss stole his money.
Yeah. So to get you back for having a good hour's worth of you like going, oh, he's up, he's fighting through, my guy's fighting through. As I'm driving, trying to listen to music, I made you listen to DC area sports talk.
Yes, and we got 2 transactions about how the Commanders were back, and I was like, you have to stop. This is torture.
I made you listen to 106 and 980. Made you listen to that. And yes, they were breaking down some Commanders free agency, man.
They got Frankie Luvo.
I know. They got Frankie Luvo. We'll talk about the Panthers free agency in a little bit. And then the other thing that I made you sit there and listen to was Bruce Springsteen deep cuts. I put on
it was fairly ridiculous. I'm not gonna
lie. What is it? The
Wild, the Innocent,
and the E Street Shuffle. And once we got past Sandy, you lost it when we started talking about Spanish Johnny,
yes.
Innocent on 57th. And you were like, what is that? I've lost track. What is he talking
Bruce, about? You wanted to bang somebody in Born to Run. I have no idea what's going on with Spanish Tony.
What is Johnny? Spanish Johnny.
I had no idea. The narrative was lost on me. But he cleaned it up. He got there. Eventually we all have our magnum opus.
From Alan, Giglio is just seeing if there's ways to bet on Winter Guard and indoor percussion on DraftKings.
Don't put it past me, man. Don't put it past me. I went from the glory of having the live line in my own living room to now.
Yeah,
this is like jail. I might need Whitaker and Hamer because there's literally a Caesar Sportsbook. The press room is actually in the Caesar Sportsbook lounge, and the app does not work.
Oh, jeez, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. All right, let's move on to some other matters, shall we? While we're here in Washington, D.C. So I saw ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips.
He just walked by.
Yeah, he's here. We're efforting a conversation with Jim Phillips. When I saw him in the hallway earlier, he says, no, we're going to talk. I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, we're here. We're here throughout the week, so let's make something happen. So hopefully we can sit down with Jim Phillips at some point while we're hanging out here at the Capital One Center. But earlier today, he went to Capitol Hill, and he was part of some Ted Cruz NIL Roundtable that also included Nick Saban, Alabama head football coach. All of this is happening while the commissioners are all socializing a variety of different college football playoff formats and socializing revenue models to see who gets what, right? And I could not have picked a better juxtaposition of how the messaging is so, for lack of a better term, fucked. Okay. I really cannot think of another term. I try not to curse as much on this podcast because I know we have younger listeners, parents that are listening.
Slightly after dark today.
It is a little after dark today. But the point is that the messaging is...
I think Fubar would be acceptable there.
Oh, since I was listening to some Jersey Bruce, Fugazi?
Fugazi's fake. Fubar is beyond all recognition.
Thank you on that one. So Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports was at this NIL roundtable. And I thought that these tweets were probably the most interesting and kind of set up the Fubar nature of how we talk about this stuff. This is from Ross Dellinger, Alabama AD Greg Byrne, in his opening address at the roundtable on Capitol Hill. Quote, "If it weren't for football, we would not have 21 sports at the University of Alabama. We do not want to see college sports lose women's sports and Olympic sports." This is the big talking point that they will use. Well, guys, if we don't keep this going, if we don't have this model, won't somebody think of the women? Well, here's the thing. Y'all have screwed up how you leverage women's sports from the jump. You can't even leverage a very popular NCAA women's tournament. Okay, so don't blame us for wanting the players to get some share of the revenue for women's sports magically just going away. No, that's your fault for not finding new ways to maximize the value of those properties. And then Joe Manchin joins the roundtable, immediately launches into issues with the transfer portal and NIL collective inducements. Quote, "I truly believe it's going to destroy the student athlete as we know it." Buddy, it doesn't exist anymore. Nick Saban tells the roundtable at the NFL that an NFL coach has told him that players in the NIL era, quote, "come to them less developed and with more entitlements," end quote, than previously. Nick said that his wife, Terry, came to him before his retirement and told him, quote, "Why are we doing this?" She told him that the players now only care about how much money they are making. So you see how it's positioned. The issues with college athletics are these darn greedy players. These players who are helping these universities with the most marketable, most valuable property they have in football make billions off of their television contracts in the college football playoff. Juxtapose that with what's going on with the college football playoff model, where you have the Big Ten and the SEC trying to negotiate a higher revenue share over the ACC and the Big 12. They even want automatic access to top seeds, buys, and everything else because, well, we're the SEC and the Big Ten. So you have the commissioners, you have the ADs, you have the college presidents, basically vacuuming up every last dollar they can, going through every bit of couch cushion to get all the money they possibly can. Yet it's the players who are the greedy ones. I need somebody to explain this like I'm five, that those who are in charge, who are constantly finding ways to not ruin the sport, but change the fabric of the sport to the point where it's unrecognizable. It's unrecognizable not because the players might get some money. It's unrecognizable because the college football playoff is going to be set up in a way that no other American sports setup exists. Okay?
Yeah.
Say what you want about the NCAA tournament. At least you have a chance. You know, I think it was, we were listening to Cover 3 on the way over here. I forgot who the coach was that made the joke about how that would be the equivalent, like the Big Ten and the SEC getting these automatic
Sonny
buys.
Dykes.
Sonny Dykes, thank you. Sonny Dykes made a very, very good point, saying, so what you're saying is that we want to have the equivalent of the Dallas Cowboys getting a number one seed in the NFL playoffs because, well, they have the most fans. You understand how that sounds? So again, I asked the question, what's actually wrecking the sport more? Players getting money or those in charge trying to make as much money as they possibly can and ultimately leave everybody behind? Because that's what the SEC and the Big Ten want.
I think it's funny. We'll talk about the Panthers and how they've learned lessons, and they had to learn that you have to burn it down in order to rebuild it, which is ironic because that's all Matt Rule did in his college stops, but refused to do in his first year in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, I think just like the Panthers, the NCAA and the colleges are learning you have to burn it down before you can rebuild it. And they're fighting every last breath. It's disgusting that the ACC has spent $1 million in lobbying Senate and Congress to try to protect the current model. When the truth of the matter is, Joe, Brett Kavanaugh's already told you in the clearest, plainest English possible.
Oh, yeah.
Your model is illegal and your model will fail every single legal challenge that is presented to the highest court in this land. Why that was not crystal clear to them, I don't know.
Don't know.
Well, I do, because they're protecting what they have. They're trying to hold on to what they have.
Yeah,
and that's what these schools are doing. They're trying to, whatever they want to call it, under whatever premise they want to call it, they're trying to protect what they already have, and they don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
And I can understand that fundamentally, but what I can't understand is the amount of money that it generates, and to say to the people, well, you can't make money. We can't share money with you, which they're still not doing, by the way.
They're not doing that. It's all on the, which we'll get to in the NIL in a second.
It's the lacrosse team that matters more than you. The volleyball team matters more than you.
Mm-hmm.
When the truth of the matter is, those sports can still exist. Those sports would just have to exist regionally.
Yes.
And or if those sports, by the way, in the free market there are plenty of athletes, both men and women, in non-revenue sports that generate interest from outside businesses, as they should. So we could see that happen. Those sports can, like you said, with Caitlin Clark in Iowa. Well, who's that on?
That's on them.
Right. That's on their failures, because they refuse to look at what they've done and how it doesn't work and realize the only thing we can do is try to scrap and claw to the last things that we've held on to. It just doesn't work anymore.
From Bourbon Ken, the college football playoff is what European Super League wants to be. Essentially, yes. Yeah. The European side. If you're not familiar with the Super League,
the Ken, Bourbon Ken again, or did he call himself Bourbon Ken?
I called him Bourbon Ken.
He's the Ken.
Well, he's Bourbon Ken to me.
Okay.
He's the Ken to you.
I know, but
here's the thing.
You got to put some respect on Ken.
Here's the thing, and there is a similarity between what Ken is bringing up with the European Super League, which is a
they were like, hey,
which is a very American idea, because remember, this is American interests that have come in and wanted to do that sort of thing. And the reason why it's American is because the Super League doesn't want relegation.
Right.
They basically, hey, we're all just sharing it's very NFL, right? So of course, that was immediately pushed back on by very, very interested parties of those soccer squads. And I think the same thing applies to college athletics, because if there's we try to compare and contrast European sports and fandom to American sports and fandom and how things operate. College sports is way more in line with European soccer than the NFL is in line with the European soccer in terms of how people truly feel a connection and identify to where they're from. All right. And I think there is a pushback from college football fans on these models, because this is not what college football fans fell in love with the sport for. And this doesn't seem to matter with the Big Ten and the SEC. And I guess, look, if there was anything that you could have taken away from that European Super League, is that fans do have an ability to get these people to go, oh, wait a minute. But typically the American mindset is, well, they're going to do this anyway, and we're going to watch it anyway. I mean, you know how many people complain about the college football playoff model and how many people are actually going to watch it? It's the Venn diagrams of circles. Same with the NCAA tournament. I'm sure between now and the Final Four, there will be a lot of talk about expanding the field. And everybody hates it. Everybody hates the idea of expanding the field.
I think it's a good idea.
Most people hate it. I mean, actually, you're the first person I've heard actually say cool.
Yeah.
Most people hate it. But we'll still watch it. But again, if you take anything from this conversation, the ultimate issues that are happening with college athletics right now are not because the players should be getting a revenue share of the TV money that's coming in. That's not the problem. The problem is those in charge who are trying to become the biggest conference in the land. They're trying to become the minor league to the NFL. That's their goal. That's what's ruining college athletics. To your point about NIL. Now, this is one thing that I think is real, and one thing that has to be fixed, and why the only way to fix it is through revenue share for the players. The NIL model, dude, it's not sustainable. I mean, how many times have we talked about the NIL model, NC State, and the basketball roster, and how much fans, boosters, are being asked to foot the bill for a variety of things? You're the one with the massive TV contract, not me. You're the one who is selling big contracts to beer companies, not me. So why do I, big booster, have to continuously fund something when you're doing XYZ? Yeah. It's one thing if you want a building, and we've talked about this in the past. If you actually help with a building, your name's on it forever.
It's there,
right?
Until you do something problematic.
Yeah, there's that too. But if I give you a bunch of money to build a locker room, if I give you a bunch of money to build like some new learning center, it's there. That's a family legacy.
For kids who can't read so well.
Exactly. Yeah. But if I give you $1 million to help build a roster, how long do I get that, Joe?
Boy, you better enjoy it.
It's not very long.
Blink.
It is not very long. So anyway, that's what's been going on in DC. I'm not exactly a fan of the way that things are being positioned. From CGK, coaches do not want to have to recruit high school players, other colleges players, and their own players 24/7. Coaches are tired. That's why coaches are leaving. I'm not quite sure how many coaches are leaving.
I mean, there's a change in terms of how I do believe the football coaches don't like the setup, and not because they're greedy, but because like they're saying it's almost like I got to recruit my own guy again.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, it's not quite after dark. You have to suck on that popsicle pretty good to get him there the first time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, was that not good enough? I got to do that again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So I do think there is a disconnect between the coaches and administrators and school presidents over what this model is and how it is working and how it is not sustainable, both on the why do I have to continuously recruit my own team and try to figure out what's going on out of high school as well. It's a difficult proposition for the coaches. I totally empathize to what they're going through.
No, I don't. I want to be clear about this. I understand where they're coming from. It sucks, but these are also things that could have been handled better if those in charge
a long time ago
got with the program and stopped trying to go to Congress like they are today to see if they can fix it. Congress ain't going to fix it.
No,
they're just not going to do it. They keep losing every time they go to Washington, as evidenced by the Supreme Court. So just something that is amusing that happened today while we're here in DC. I wasn't invited.
No, I wouldn't expect to be.
I was kind of bummed out by that. Big thanks to Homefield for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio. Check them out, homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG23 to save 15% off your order. It is Third Month Mania. They got new stuff coming out every single day, Joe. Every single day they got some new hot stuff. So check it out, homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG23. Also, Butcher's Market. Check them out, Butcher's Market, thebutchersmarkets.com. That location in Lake Boone Shopping Plaza is going strong.
The OG triangle.
The hub. Do not sleep on lunch, folks.
Oh, look at New Balance's logo. Sorry, you knew I could. I was trying not to be distracted, but one of my favorite things is every year where they come out with their new slogans.
Oh,
and the Adidas slogan is "Our Moment."
Yeah,
and you were like, "Hey, now, how could Louisville and NC State both have a moment?"
They can't.
New Balance, which is Boston College's sponsor, says, "We got now. We got now." I love the lazy high school cross country slogan.
Yes,
every year, every March from these sneaker companies. Love them.
You have now to get situated at the Butcher's Market and find yourself some wonderful food to grill up while you're watching
those sausages too.
Good stuff. Also, big thanks to Two Roosters. Maybe you want to treat yourself. NC State won today. What do they usually do when they went on the road, Joe? They get ice cream.
And
maybe you want to celebrate an NC State win today. You go get yourself some Two Roosters.
I could use some bourbon coffee right now. Yes, that would be glorious.
You would go to sleep. What are you talking about?
I know.
You would absolutely just zonk out right now.
I know.
Oh, is that what you want?
It would just complete my day.
All right, fair enough.
Right?
TwoRoosters.com. You can find out their flavors that are rotating across their various locations. And yes,
also in the Lake Boone OG universe.
Not my home base, though. Not my home base. I go to the Person Street location. And, of course, a location at PNC Arena. Again, check them out, TwoRoosters.com. Meanwhile, while we're here at the ACC Tournament in DC, the Carolina Panthers are going through free agency right now. I made you listen to DC area sports talk so you can get breathless live updates as to deals that were done. I did a hit with Kyle Bailey today on WFNZ, and he asked me what I thought about some of the free agent signings for the Carolina Panthers so far, or thoughts on those who they weren't able to retain, like Brian Burns, who they traded to Washington, or to the, Frankie Louvu deal, which, again, that would have been a nice guy to keep around. But my thought immediately in answering that question, it simply was, man, I don't know. Because how did we talk about the free agent signings last year, Joe? Every team does this. Everybody gets really caught up. Dan Le Batard has always joked about the NFL's greatest trick is using the offseason to traffic in hope. You have the combine, you fixate on a guy, and then it maps out in the calendar to get to free agency where you can completely rechange your roster just like that by spending big money on a guy. And then what ends up happening is that while other teams are making moves, you're like that Squidward meme where you see Patrick and SpongeBob outside having a good old time, enjoying themselves, and you're stuck in your pineapple home, not really happy.
It's interesting. We had a conversation at the beginning of the season for the Panthers when they had started so poorly. And it looked like Frank Reich would be gone, and then he was. And we talked about they needed a fast forward button.
Yeah.
And we had also talked about at that time, what actual assets do they have? Well, some people were like, well, Frankie Luvo, or some people were like, well, Jeremy Chin.
Yeah.
And some people were like, well, Brian Burns.
Yeah, none of those guys are back.
And guess what? Those players had no value. Burns ended up with a second round pick.
Yeah.
Now, where that pick is in the 30s actually is a good move for them. They could either package those two picks together and move up into the first round if there was somebody they really wanted, or, hear me out, just use those two picks and start replenishing the roster. I don't hate what they're doing. I think in part with their defense, they were a 4-3. And remember, David Tepper, a football genius, was like, no, I am from Pittsburgh.
I'm from Pittsburgh.
We play the 3-4.
This is what we do.
So the parts didn't fit to what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Now, we can sit here and cry over spilled milk about Burns and not getting the 2 1s that were offered for him 2 years ago. I could also have seen them letting him play out this year on the franchise tag, letting him increase his value and then make a better deal. But getting the second round pick from the Giants, which was in the top 10 of the second round, I thought that was a good deal. Moving on from Chin and Luvo, while I would have kept both of them, obviously, when you change schemes, guys, when their value comes out, those are two positions, safety and linebacker, that are fairly easily replaceable.
Now, we're recording this live, or we're doing this live on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, just so you know, all this stuff is just happening in real time. So to kind of go over the last 24 to 48 hours for the Carolina Panthers, we talked about Brian Burns. My only quick thought on Brian Burns is your point about crying over spilled milk. You're right. You can't really do anything about that. And if anything, what I would argue is let's see how Dan Morgan as general manager and Dave Canales untangle the mess. You know, we've talked to Mike Kay about this, and we might hook up with Mike Kay sometime later in the week when everything kind of settles down with free agency from the Charlotte Observer. And the best thing he ever told us was the Carolina Panthers have had these compounding mistakes. And it's not any one person who has contributed to this compounding mistake after mistake after mistake. I'm not going to assign how they completely screwed up with Brian Burns to Dan Morgan. I'm going to assign that to Scott Fitterer.
I think you probably can assign it to David Tepper or Matt Rule.
Or Matt Rule, for that matter, right? So there's any number of people that you can point to for that.
Maybe all of them.
Not Dan Morgan. Like, let him untangle this mess with Dave Canales, and maybe David Tepper understanding, okay, I see where my impatience has led to these issues and how we have to replenish, as you said. So let's just get over the Brian Burns thing. They had to commit to something. At least they committed to something. And if anything, my takeaway from the last 24 to 48 hours for the Panthers is it almost feels like they finally admitted, man, this ain't working. So let's go ahead and just start this rebuild the best we can. So you move on from Brian Burns. Frankie Luvu goes to Washington on a 3-year deal. Itor Gross-Matos, 2 years with San Francisco. Jeremy Chin, he goes to Washington for a year. However, what I do like is that they went and got Robert Hunt out of Miami, help on that offensive line. They also got Damian Lewis out of Seattle, some familiarity there, right? Again, that helps out on the offensive line. What was the big thing that was the problem for the Carolina Panthers this year and for Bryce Young if he's going to succeed at all?
Yes.
You need time.
Going back to what we had said, what I said at that time, while some people were like, you could get a 1 for Frankie Luvo. Oh my God, stop being delusional. They had one asset. It was Young.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure out how to figure out what to do around Young and help Young.
That's how you do it.
And you can use Canales' words. You're not fixing them, you're helping them.
Yes. And that's how you help them.
You very much start on the offensive line.
You get them a line. And then, of course, you get a defense that's more in line with what you are trying to be. And they've gotten bigger on the defensive line. And also, they've stayed relatively young so far. The only issues that I've seen for the Carolina Panthers, and these are things that you can address in the draft if you want to, is at wide receiver. We just haven't seen anything in terms of...
No, you got to keep throwing those darts in the draft.
And the thing is, based on what I've been able to see, the wide receiver market has been kind of soft anyway. So who knows how that plays out for the Carolina Panthers. You say throw darts. Yes. Any guys that they pick up. Remember how we talked about that group last year? Even you were like...
I liked Hayden Hurst.
Right.
I like Miles Sanders.
We got what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. Now, is it because the guys they picked were wrong? Was it Frank Reich? Which I'm inclined to believe it was more Frank Reich than it was the pieces around him. We'll see what Dave Canales is able to do with Dan Morgan. So that's where we're at with the Carolina Panthers and free agency. I just caution people of getting too wrapped up in what they spent, who they lost, who they added. I'm more concerned with, can Dan Morgan, can Dave Canales, can Brant Tillis, can that new brain trust, and more importantly, Dave Tepper finally learn the lessons of untangling these issues and getting better.
I think they've made too many offseason moves thinking they were a year away or this was the year. They're now finally understanding this is a 2 to 3 year process for them.
Mm-hmm. God, how many times have we screamed that? We've screamed that so much, man. So much. All right, let's get into the OG Gambling Syndicate. Big thanks to DraftKings. You can use the promo code OG24. I'll tell you about some of the new bonus bets that you can get. I am not
back in Raleigh.
Yeah, I am not able to use the DraftKings app here.
You want one OG play of the game then? What play of the day?
Yeah, what's that?
My Zags. You don't need to believe in them in the NCAA tournament, but you absolutely should believe in them in the West Coast Conference tournament. They also kind of sort of, while they're going to be in the field, they want to feel 100% certain. They want to win the game tonight against St. Mary's. They're a 3.5 point favorite. They just beat St. Mary's at the end of the regular season.
Gotcha.
Gonzaga is officially in fire breathing mode. I've got the Zags tonight. I actually have the Zags tonight because I placed it on our ride up here. It's the only action I have today. I'm like over in a corner shaking.
I want to tell you where I really won big. I had the Hornets to score 1 point plus.
Such a dork.
That paid
you finally hit one. Though.
Yeah, that paid out. That $50. Wasn't your play.
We both had futures bets.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'll get into some of my futures. I'll get into some of my futures bets. But yeah, I had the Hornets to score a point against the Detroit Pistons. Hit that one. Got $50. Paid out $50. Very excited about that. Also paid out $50 for today's NC State Louisville game, where I had either team to score a point. So
it's impressive, Joe.
That paid out. $150.
You laugh, but you probably don't remember
what
the first game of the season for the Jets.
Yeah,
there was an over/under similar bet on passing yards for Aaron Rodgers, who then tore his Achilles and did not have a passing yard.
That's funny. I also bet against Herb Sendick because that's what you do.
Yes,
and I won $59.
I faded Herb last night
with
too.
One of my bonus bets.
It was nice.
Now I did screw up on a Rangers Devils game where I had at least one first period goal. What did those two teams not do? Score a goal in the first period. Very upset about this. But my futures bet, I used some of my bonus bet money on sticking with the NFL. You ready for this?
Oh, I thought you.
No, sticking with the NFL. You ready for this?
Give it to me.
Drake May to be the first quarterback in the draft.
You had good odds on this too.
Incredible odds.
I like it.
Incredible odds on this.
Why not?
Why not? It's a bonus bet. That's what you could do with your bonus bets. That's what it's all about. So it's live in North Carolina. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official betting partner of NASCAR. Again, live in North Carolina. You can legally bet on all your favorite sports anytime, anywhere right here in North Carolina. Well, we're not in North Carolina right now, but when we're back in North Carolina, we absolutely can. And for a limited time, new customers who sign up with the promo code OG24 and bet $5 will receive $200 instantly in bonus bets. Folks, the bonus bets are hella fun, as evidenced by how I've been using said bonus bets. DraftKings has the best features, including same-game parlays, player props, and more with fast and easy payouts right at your fingertips. I also created an OG gambling group.
Yeah, I got a text from you. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, you basically, all of our listeners can get into that. If you look up OG Gambling Syndicate in the DraftKings app, you'll find us.
Okay.
You can join it. And people basically, it's kind of turned into fading me.
Yeah, I like that.
And which is fine. I appreciate it.
But you can't have like these complicated
parlays
to fade because it's too hard.
Essentially, when you're in the group, it'll show you the bets that are being made by the group, and then people can have some fun with, oh, look at you.
I'm going to go the other way.
I'm going to go this other way. Right. That's what it's all about. So you can look up that OG Gambling Syndicate group in DraftKings. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that code OG24. Bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code OG24. Now, gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus, North Carolina only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook/NC. NASCAR is not a sponsor of this promotion and used under license. The crown is yours. That reminds me about those bonus bets.
Yeah.
I need to get the heck out of DC so I can use those bonus bets.
Yeah, they do expire. I think we have until the 18th, though.
To the 18th?
I believe.
So is that 168 hours after issuance? Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure on that. I want to make sure that I can make some more ridiculous futures bets, including maybe the Carolina Panthers making the playoffs. Thanks to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio. I was in the backyard yesterday. The grass is starting to grow. The pollen is starting to come out. It's starting to get warmer, which also means that the bugs, the mosquitoes, will be right around the corner. Start treating your yard. Get with Mosquito Authority. And you can bundle and save at bugsbite.com with Pest Authority, Joe.
Bugs inside the house, mice in the attic, moisture under the house. Trust me, you got a lot of issues at your home that you're not thinking about.
Yep.
So reach out to them at bugsbite.com. Protect your number one investment, and in the process, help us.
Also, big thanks to Matt Davis, InsureGarner.com, TheOGInsurance.com, or call him directly, 919-779-8277. Matt Davis, he is a man who understands many, many things, including saving you money. He also understands marketing. I need to get in on that conversation about marketing.
Well, he'll be here to see his Duke Blue Devils.
I love it.
On Thursday. So we will definitely catch up with Matt, but you should too. Give him a call for real. Just find ways to save yourself some money. There's always a good time of the year to do that, especially in this post-tax season time of the year.
Let's get out of here on some Hey Joe questions from Sam out in the Outer Banks. How's that $30 concession voucher working out? I did not use the concession voucher. You did, though.
I did. I enjoyed the wings. There was a wing place up there.
Yeah.
There was a ton of them, too. And that was $16. I think I went back and got a pretzel, too. So, yeah, I got another $30, but you can't use it on beer.
Yeah, I was upset about that. So this is what
I feel like we should buy somebody wings and sell them to them for like $12 or whatever the cost of the beer is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could do that.
With them.
You called it because you were talking about.
You love it when I'm right.
Yeah, you were talking about bringing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to the arena, and I'm like, dude, they're gonna feed us. They always feed us. And you're like, man, no. Like you could feel it. You had a sense. You had a sense. And then sure enough, we show up and they hand us some vouchers.
Some Pliz bucks.
Definitely some Pliz bucks. And I went, oh, okay. I'm like, that's fine. It makes it easier. Just go up to the concourse and find something.
And there's like a little scan code on there too.
Yeah, so it makes it easy.
It's not like the Pliz bucks where they look at you like,
what is this? But here's the part that got me. Not valid for alcohol purchases. Bro.
Do they sell weed in the building? I mean, might as well. It's right outside, right?
Smell. we were walking over to the arena. Yeah, you could smell it.
No, it's legal here.
I know it's legal here. Yeah. It's like when you go to New York, it's all over the place. You could from Rich, you could cover one meal. How much were the wings?
They were $16.
Okay. No, that's not terrible.
Plus they do have drinks.
Yeah.
So you don't have to buy a drink.
Yeah, good point. That's a good point. From Mike, on a scale of Bayheim and Greensboro to Giglio in Vegas, how are you guys enjoying DC so far? We literally just got here.
I love DC.
I'm a big fan of DC.
I would be a lot happier if my apps were working. I'm not going to lie to you. It's very frustrating. That part's very frustrating. If I could just get one to work, I would be happy to.
Okay. And also from Mike, hot take, OVS greater than OVOs.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a little thing there for the series.
Yeah, I put it on the Twitters.
That's good stuff. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's live ACC tournament show.
Just because they're not the presenting sponsor, we still have to give a shout to our guys at Copiers Plus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did I forget to shout them?
Because we're a little bit complicated today because we have a lot of different sponsorships happening.
Well,
while we're here, we got to remember our friends from Hometown Realty.
Yes.
We also have to remember our friends from Copiers Plus, because without Drew and his crew, this tax season would have been a complete disaster.
Yeah.
And B, we like doing things like this, so we need our friends at copiers-plus.com. You could save your business some money while you're at it.
Yeah, from South Beach Renegade, $30 could get you one beer. Yeah, depending on the beer.
Probably.
Depending on the beer.
Probably.
If it's a craft beer, it's probably going to cost me $30. If it's just
domestic,
domestic,
I think it was 18.
That's probably for a domestic.
But we'll have to go check it out, because
I will check it out.
Loves to tell us.
I know
our beer prices are still the best.
No, you're right about Copiers Plus. You actually mentioned this today on the drive. We spent a lot of quality time today.
We did.
You were pointing out that your routine was off. You're like, I like my routine.
I do.
It's like
wake up.
It was 10:30ish. You're like, yeah, by now we're done. Game over.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. In the meantime, you drank a lot of coffee and a lot of pineapple.
I did. Those snacks are delicious.
You are a snack king, dude.
Yeah.
Put a whole bag of snacks in the car.
I did.
Anyway, big thanks to Copiers Plus. Big thanks to Hometown Realty. And big thanks to y'all for hanging out while we're doing this live on YouTube. We will do this again tomorrow evening.
After you have confidence in the Deeks.
I got confidence in the Deeks.
Okay.
As I think it was Nada who pointed this out, that the Deeks will win. That'll set up a Wake Forest Pitt game on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, because Pitt's the 4, right?
Pitt is the 4. Yes, it would.
So that becomes a loser goes to the NIT. Winner goes to Dayton. That's kind of where we're at. Sure. But we'll link up with Patrick Stevens tomorrow, because traditionally it is a Wednesday. So we will talk to our number one bracketologist, Patrick Stevens. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow here in Washington, D.C.